It's bacon time. Hello, everybody. How you guys doing tonight? Welcome to the Dads with Bacon talking games and more. Tonight, though, we'll pretty much just be talking about games. It's our favorite thing here. Uh, just want to let all of you know. First of all, I wanted to address last week. My apologies for not having the show. We had my wife and I had a New Year's Eve dinner on Thursday night, and well, I kind of forgot that we had that planned. So hopefully she doesn't see that and get upset. But we were going to do an episode on Saturday, and I found out my great nephew, so my niece's son, was diagnosed with leukemia on Friday. So we were kind of dealing with that. And to be honest, I just wasn't in the mood to do a show. So we're back up tonight. And again, talking games. And right now, I'm just going to go right into it. Bring in our first guest, and that's TJ. TJ, how you doing?
Good, man. How about yourself?
Good, good. So, TJ, since it's your first time on the show, what we do, and I kind of told you about it anyway before the show, but first, tell us a little bit about yourself and why you got into gaming in the first place.
So I'm TJ. A lot of people probably on Xbox, if I play with you, probably either know me as Conbro Trail 94 or Big Country 59. Um, I'm, father of two here soon. I got one on the way.
Congrats.
Thank you, thank you. It's definitely been fun per se in these 9 months, but definitely ready for them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm young. I mean, I'm 29. I still play sports. I play semi-professional football and pro arena ball. And on my off times, actually, me and the boys play games together.
Nice, nice. So, what would you say? Well, like, how long have you been a gamer? You said you're 29 years old. How long have you been gaming? Would you say?
Man, let's see. I think I got my first gaming system was actually the original Xbox. So in like
Okay.
2000, 2001 maybe was when I got my first ever gaming system. So I've been gaming, I mean, shoot, that's 23 years now.
Sure. Now, why, and is there a reason why you started gaming, or just all your friends were playing games, or what? Because you're kind of, I will say this: I'm 46, so when I started, we just had Pong and like maybe Atari. So I feel like at your age, you were probably getting into it when it was starting to become more popular. Whereas, when I was starting to game, it was pretty much not that you were like a nerd necessarily, but you weren't exactly the most popular person in the world.
Yeah, I mean,
So yeah, go ahead.
so how I got started, honestly, it's kind of a funny story. I grew up in a like mechanical family, so we did a lot
Mhm.
of car work. So all of us were literally born and raised in cars, and I would see like my uncles, they would be playing like Need for Speed or Midnight Club or something like
Okay.
that, building these just like monstrous cars. And I was like, I want to get into it. And then I actually got into the Forza scene. And I want to say it was like the very first motorsport that ever came out, and just kind of rode with it ever since.
Nice, nice. Yeah, because I will say this. My mom played some games with me, but my dad was a 43 when I was born. So he had no clue about video games or
Oh,
anything
yeah.
like that. But okay, so what would you say then is your favorite genre of game to play? Do you have a specific one?
Um, I really want to say I have a specific one. I mean, if you were to come into my house today and be like, "Hey, we're going to throw a gaming system on. What are we playing?" I normally race. I'm a very competitive person.
Sure.
I mean, if I knew somebody outside, I'd jump in the truck and race him down the road if I could.
Nice.
So I'd say racing is like my number one. Number two would definitely be like sports.
Okay. Okay. So what would you say your favorite game of all time is? Do you have one?
Oh, that's a tough one, honestly. I mean, there's a couple good ones I could think of. The first one would be Midnight Club Dub Edition.
Okay.
That was like one of the biggest games that I remember playing on the original Xbox. After that, honestly, it'd probably be Halo, the original Halo, and then Halo 2.
Okay. Nice. Nice. All right. So what we're going to do then? Now we're going to bring in. Oh, Frank dropped off for a minute. Here, we're going to bring Brad in.
Hey, how's it going, Aaron?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Have a good evening.
Yeah. So now, what games have you been playing since we talked last?
Oh man, since we talked last, I've been playing, man, a little bit of Overwatch 2. Still been kind of hung into that game a little bit.
Okay.
But I've been really kind of on this roguelike craze. I've been playing a lot of Hades over the past 2 weeks. I actually just started play. I downloaded a brand new one yesterday for $4. It's called Vampire Survivors.
Okay.
Um, It's basically you're just like this little character, and you're trying to survive as long as you can through a level, and then as you die at the end of the game, you power up and then restart, and then you
Oh,
and then you go as far as you can, go a little bit further, and then you die, and then you power up and then you restart.
nice.
And so it's a different mode of game for me, especially having kids. I can't sit down for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time
Yeah.
and grind.
Yeah.
Some of these games I got to knock out in 10, 20, 30 minutes, and that's a big enough window for me to be able to do. So I've been really enjoying those games lately.
Nice. All right. Let's bring on Frank. Frank, how you doing, man?
Pretty good.
So, what games have you been playing since the last time we talked?
Right now, I've been doing a lot of Persona 5 Royal
Hmm. Okay.
for the fourth time. They just released it for the PS5, and I was like right there on day one.
I've heard a
Okay.
lot of really, really good things about that game.
I've never heard of it until Persona 5 came out originally, and I was looking at it, and I was like, all right, let's see what all the hype is about. And I realized it was an old style turn based RPG, and I've seen one of those in years, and I was like, sold. That's all I knew about it, and then I fell in love.
Nice. All right. So tonight, what we're going to be talking about is, well, we have a few different topics. One of them is the fighting game genre. I mean, I feel like this particular group of games is probably um, one of the most, as far as the community is concerned, they are one of the most loyal and diehard groups that you're going to find out there. And yet at the same time, I do feel like they're, I don't know if the word disrespected is the right word or not, but you see a lot of we're going to talk about esports as well, and if you look at the esports scene with fighting games, you don't see a lot of fighting games in terms of big payouts and things like that. You have games like Fortnite, which are giving out millions of dollars and all that kind of stuff, and yet I know a lot of guys that are in the fight game community, and they'll pay $20 or $30 to be in a tournament. They'll have a couple thousand people in the tournament or whatever, and yet they're playing for like $5,000 and things like that. And so I guess first of all, I'll ask each of you, starting with you, TJ, are you into the fighting game scene?
So, God, I think the last time I played a fighting game was like UFC 2 or 3. So I mean, yeah, I'm kind of into them. I think my very first one I ever had was Def Jam Fights in New York. We could fight as like different rappers. So it was like Fat Joe and I think Ludacris was in there. So that
Okay.
that really got me into it, and I thought it was kind of fun to play that. But yeah, I mean, fighting games they're very addictive. I can tell you that.
Mhm.
And coming from I don't want to say the rough side of the tracks, but I mean places where I live, those kids will watch that go out to the streets and do what they see.
Yeah.
So it's definitely one of those things where like fighting games are starting to lose their luster because of, I mean, sad to say it, but it's kind of like cancel culture is coming after like UFC games. They want to shut those down because it's giving kids bad ideas to go out there and fight.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's I mean, we could even talk about that a whole. Actually, we'll touch on that a little bit later when we talk about like Scholastic esports and Scholastic gaming, which Brad I know for sure has some experience with. But one of the things about the fighting games that I'll say I like, and I don't play a ton of them, but one of the things, and I think Brad, you kind of touched on it, in the intro. I don't have a lot of time. And obviously, TJ, with you're about to have your second kid, none of us really have a lot of time
No.
being parents to sit there and play games like you see some of these streamers playing for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. I mean, don't get me wrong, I would love to have that kind of time, at times. But one of the things I do enjoy about the fighting games is that they are quick. Like my son and I will play a game of Smash Brothers, and I mean, usually he kicks my butt, but I mean, it's done in 5 minutes. So it's like, okay, well, I can do that. So, Brad, what are your thoughts on the fighting game scene? Oh, you're muted, Brad.
As to the fighting
There you
scene
go.
right now,
Yeah.
I think that especially like you're mentioning about Street Fighter 6 with that coming out in June of this year. It seems like it's kind of moving off of the traditional just like 2D planar Street Fighter and starting to slightly kind of, I guess you say, dabble into three-dimensional fighting a little bit. And um, it even seems like in some of the promo videos I've seen that they're starting to get into like some combo hitting and kind of instead of just like eh, instead of just having standard base moves and those are only the base moves that you can do, that there's actually, if you, get like a punch punch sweep or punch kick punch, there's a little more of a combination platter to it. And so I think it still has that Street Fighter look to it of being completely planar, like on front and center on the screen. But
Yeah.
it did look a little Tecmo or Tekken-ish, and I don't mind that. I was raised on Tekken. I started playing Tekken in like PS1 on Tekken 2, Street Fighter 2 on Super Nintendo. I mean, there's a lot of rich history in my blood anyway in fighting games. So I'm looking forward to it.
Well, you know what, and Frank, before I get your view, why don't since Brad brought it up, I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to show you the trailer for Street Fighter 6. So let me do that right now.
Go ahead and hit full screen.
When you go looking for strength, it's not like a game. This journey doesn't have a real ending. Okay then, hope you're ready to begin. If you want to start off on the right foot in this city, hit the streets.
Yeah, every day I do this, never fear losing. And when I get up in the game, y'all be improved. A real crowler, but I solve them all face proof. And if you think I'm going forward, then you talking fool. Yeah, y'all wanna win, let me spin, boy. I done inside, I'm super fly like I'm hanging off the rim, boy. I've been winning for my kinfolk, and I put on for my city from the intro. Fight! It started from the ground up, training getting wound up, channeling the inner self and moving up and down, crossing over past the bound, on time the clock and keep score. Years I never thought it was the cause. When I get caught on my knees, I got it in the beat. I feel like I'm on the block, it really is. I mean, actions always the win. No, good, fine, if you just do it again.
The top player is here. Let me have some fun.
Ready? Then show me.
This will be a good fight.
If you wanna come and stand up to me, pull up on me now. If you don't want challenge to me, what you wanna call me now? I'm on the road to the top and I'm not looking back. I'm on the road to the top and I'm not looking back.
Okay, so Frank. Oh, hold on. There we go. Hey, Frank. So what are your thoughts on the trailer? And that was actually about 7 months ago that they released that trailer. So I believe they have an actual release date instead of, I know it said coming in 2023. Um, but Frank, what were your thoughts on that trailer and just on the fighting game scene in general?
For that trailer, it was actually pretty cool. I was interested in seeing it. But the problem with Street Fighter for me lately, and why I stopped playing years ago, and I did try it. I think it was four was the last one. It was back like 2011 or something.
Okay.
Was they kind of went the same route as Mortal Kombat did back in the later PS2 era, where they all just kind of looked roided out, like beyond realism anymore. And I don't know, something about like I get it's a game, but at the same time, it was just kind of off-putting to me because it looked too unreal, even for a video game standard to me.
Sure.
And with Street Fighter, the one of the biggest problems with me is the way they do their tutorial now. Is instead of having the button combinations with the actual buttons, they do it what the buttons do. Low punch, high punch, kick. Tell me what those buttons are so I can learn those too. Where Mortal Kombat does X square, triangle X, or whatever, etc. So I've not played Street Fighter in quite a while because of that one big reason right there. It's a lot harder to learn. But I mean, that trailer looked pretty interesting. I was a little confused at them running around. Like, is that supposed to be a cutscene or is there actually exploration and then fight scene
Yeah.
too? But
Yeah,
yeah,
it started reminding me a little bit of for if any of you are into the NBA 2K, the like the park and that kind of stuff where you can walk around. But yeah, that's to be honest, that's the first time I've seen that trailer. So yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing as you, and I didn't have time before the show started to actually dig into it and see. I'm reading Game Informer right now, and they're previewing Street Fighter 6, which is one of the reasons why I kind of thought, oh, it'd be nice to talk about it and that kind of thing on the
a
show.
lot of fighting games have been doing that lately too, is giving you an open world and then the fight scenes
Mhm.
be the traditional. Like Dragon Ball Z, I think is what started the whole tradition back with like three or no, Tenkaichi, I think it was. I know one of them did it.
Okay,
And then a lot of more started doing it too. Mortal Kombat had it, I believe. A lot of the new anime-based show games are doing it. Um, and so it would surprise me if Street Fighter took the same route, just to try something new to Street Fighter.
sure.
Um, but I mean, that could actually be pretty interesting because you could explore, maybe find new skills, find somebody to
Mhm.
train you, and make if you get like a default character or create your own, I think that would be pretty cool. And I might look into it more for that reason
Sure.
because I always like those with the fighting games because it's your own personal character. You start at scratch with you're stupid when it comes to fighting, and then you find people who teach you stuff, and you can become your own personal fighter, and everybody's fighters is different
Yeah.
because of
I
that.
mean, you
Where,
can do it on a wrestling game.
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
if they do that approach, I might look into it more. But for right now, I'll just wait to see what it's like before I actually.
Okay. Cool. No, Brad, I wanted to ask you because again, I know um, you had said you volunteer, you've helped out in the past at the high school that you work at with their esports team. Now, do they compete in any of the fighting games like Smash Brothers or anything or not?
Yes, Smash Brothers is the only fighting game that we currently have. The other games we have are like League, uh, Fortnite, Valorant, iRacing, Apex. So it's a lot of FPS games, a couple strategy games, kind of mixed in there with the chess and the Tetris and stuff. But the thing is, I think what the Smash Brothers team allows our esports school or schools that sponsor esports to do is to put a larger volume of students and players on the team.
Hmm.
Just because, like in Valorant, you're limited to what, like a party of what, four, three or four,
Yeah. Yeah.
and so in any FPS game, you're limited by the number that can be arranged in a multiplayer party.
Sure.
So with Smash, they've actually set up games where we've allowed, like for a team, every match is worth so many points, Depending on how much you win your match by, how many lives you have left will give you bonus points. Um, so there, I think it's a we haven't gotten quite into the Street Fighter, Tekken, um, you know, any kind of that direction of fighting game yet. But Smash Brothers is definitely up there.
Yeah, it seems like most of the schools around here, and right now, I think Wisconsin has. The last time I checked, there's a gentleman down in the Milwaukee area named Mike Dahl who runs I think it's called the Wisconsin Interscholastic High School Esports Association, WIHSEA or something like that. And I think the last time he had an update, they were up to like 94 schools. Now there's still about 800 schools that they haven't gotten into yet in Wisconsin, but I guess that brings up the next topic I wanted to talk about, which is the rise of esports, and I guess we'll start out with Scholastic Esports. And TJ, I'll start with you. Um, First of all, when your kids get older, I know you said your daughter is 5. First, does she game at all or not? Does she play with you at all? Or
She does, and it's kind of funny because I'm like I said before, I'm huge into like the racing scene.
mm-hmm.
And when I started, it was about Forza Horizon, the original Forza Horizon. I joined up with a crew of actually guys I went to high school with, and we built a racing team, and we went through Forza Racing League. And what they do is they take the top 100 in that division. They tell you to build a car to a certain spec. You got to send it through email, show them what your specs are, and you race. And I think our top prize one year was a full racing setup.
Oh, nice.
And we did that. God, I probably did that until my daughter was actually born in 2017, and I actually got a full racing setup for winning one of the races. So she actually sits in there and she races with us.
Nice, nice. So let me ask you this then: and you said you're going to have a son here in the next week or two, when they get into okay, let me take a little step back here. And Brad, you can tell me what Indiana, the state of Indiana, what they do for their esports. But in Wisconsin, we have something called the WIAA, is the association that runs all the interscholastic athletics. So all the traditional sports is run through them. And a while back, it was a few years ago, there was starting to be talk of having them lead the high school and middle school esports programs, and they basically said, we're not going to mess. It was something very, and I'm not a big fan of them anyway, but it was something very derogatory. I mean, it was almost like they had no concept of kids and what they're into these days, and and that kind of thing. So I guess my question, and each of you can answer this. How would you feel if your kids told you as they got older that they wanted to play esports at their school? TJ, why don't you start? Like when your daughter gets older, and then your future son here gets into school, do you have a problem with that or not?
I don't, because and I don't know about you guys, but I feel like when you come home from like a long day's work, you want to jump on like a console, a gaming system or something, just relax yourself, after a long day. So, if my daughter came to me, and she's like, hey, they're doing they have an esports league and we're doing, certain games, I would be fine with it up to an extent of what games they do. Um, I don't want them to get into like hardcore, like Call of Duty, because I don't want them to get in the wrong mindset of doing that, because that'll take away from like the family time. But if it was like a Madden League, NHL, even a Fight Club, I mean, like if they brought Fight Clubs back, I feel like I would be fine with it, because it's it kind of teaches them honestly patience, and it keeps them focused longer than what other people would expect.
Okay, Now, Brad, how about you? I mean, obviously you have the different, perspective of actually helping out with the team, so you kind of, I think, have a better idea of some of the benefits of scholastic esports.
Yeah, definitely. The thing is that we go through what's called the Indiana Esports Network (IEN),
Okay.
and it's sponsored by teachers from across the state, and they basically have made it a kind of like a nonprofit where they have a board and like full legal organizational stuff. Um, but what we do is we follow the exact same guidelines as our athletics do. We follow the same grade requirements in addition, like regards like how many classes you need to be passing, what a certain GPA you need to have or maintain in order to keep your eligibility. So we do find it beneficial just because, I mean, let's all be real. Not every single student that walks through the halls is an athlete, and
Hmm.
they all have goals and desires in places other than athletics, and that shouldn't be the main focus. There should be things available for young adults to positively interact with other people who have uh, the same desires and goals and interests as them, and be able to do so in a constructive way. So I think that the whole esports thing for our students, especially for again the non-athletic kind of fall through the crack kind of kids that would
Yeah.
just normally go home and game, now they have a reason to maintain their grades and keep them up, and to be, let's be real, like if they were to go home and just do that anyway, isn't it better to gain some friends and socialize and do it with them at the esports lab at school, rather than go home and do that or get into other stuff that wouldn't be in their best interest.
Now, if okay, so how old? Remind me again, Brad, how old your kids are?
My kids are 8 and 6.
Okay, so um, the 8-year-old is.
He
I'm
games,
trying.
yeah. He plays
Yeah.
the Switch, like Minecraft. He's been playing a little more Fortnite and Rocket League and stuff lately.
Okay. Now
So
Rocket League is one of them. I know a lot of schools still aren't really doing the Fortnite thing too much because of the whole, that you're shooting at people and things like that. But I know
no, that's
Rocket League is
That's
pretty is
actually been kind of tapered a little bit, just
okay.
because I think a lot of people have really just come around to like, okay, just because I'm playing Call of Duty does not make me a more aggressive person. That doesn't mean I'm going to go and find a weapon and try and harm somebody from playing too much. I think that stigma
Yeah.
is kind of done because we've done a good job as society letting those, whether it be kids, adults, or stakeholders, know that hey, it's fake, it's all for fun, it's not real.
Yeah, we could actually probably do a whole hour on that on that topic because yeah, that's driven me nuts ever since they, like when Grand Theft Auto I think came out. That's when the whole thing really started with
Yeah,
violence in video games and how awful video games are for kids. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? I grew up playing Doom and all these other games where you're shooting or, and blowing things up or killing other people, and I never, I mean, I hate to make light of a serious topic, but I never went and shot up a school. I mean, if that's what causes kids to do that, then there'd be a heck of a lot more, mass shootings around there. I'm not saying that it doesn't contribute to it, but chances are you probably have some other issues if you want to take that next step from okay, I'm playing Grand Theft Auto or Call of Duty, and then I'm going to go do that. So yeah, like I said, that could be a whole nother topic. But okay, so Brad, as they get older, and Frank, I'll get you in just a second. Sorry, but as your kids get older, if they want to get into esports, I'm assuming you wouldn't really have a problem with it.
no, because honestly, I think it's a lot of parents make statements about whether it be a school or a location or a place or a thing,
Hmm.
about like labeling it as like a bad thing. But as long as you as a parent are involved, I
Yeah.
think it makes the biggest difference, the only difference.
Well, and
Because
I think it definitely helps too that you know again when we were growing up, our parents probably didn't game that much, but you know, now the parents are gamers too in a lot of ways. So,
yeah,
that
and
it
that,
helps with the
if
stigma.
yeah, I completely agree, and I think it has to, and Frank can maybe attest to this a little bit about maybe like the way that maybe his parents had treated him when he was gaming as he was growing up.
Yeah, Frank, why don't you talk? Because I think you talked about that a little bit the last episode that you were on too, if I'm not mistaken. But, um, yeah, well, what are your thoughts as far as your kids gaming and things like that?
Honestly, I love it. I think it'd be a really good idea because one, most schools, especially the bigger city ones or the bigger named ones, their main focus is sports,
Mhm.
actual sports, football, baseball, basketball, whatever. Not every kid is built to play sports. I played soccer my entire elementary school. I loved it. Seventh grade, it got a little too real, and I wasn't as good as I used to be.
Sure.
Um, I tried baseball, tried basketball, and I just sucked at it all. I wasn't the athletic type. I didn't really have anywhere else to go, so it was just go to school, go home.
Yeah.
Same with a lot of other kids. I mean, they even had a movie based on that with Rob Schneider, The Benchwarmers. It was kind of like the same message. All those kids that don't have a place to be, to belong to, so they get left out of everything. So with esports, you got those kids who aren't as athletic but love the technology or are really good at video games. That's a home for them to go to feel welcome to. And granted, they're not going to be as popular as the high school jocks or the star quarterback, but they're still going to have a place where they can feel they belong.
Yeah.
And I think that's important for all kids in school is to have a place to feel belong because that's another thing that starts, like you were talking about, school shootings and all that. A lot of those kids had the trauma, the bullying, and all that other stuff. They didn't have a place to belong, and then they felt the only way out was this horrible thing. Where if
Hmm.
more kids had a place to be, whether it's there's a school here that's up next town over has a Dungeons and Dragons group, um, after school group. They got a
Okay.
Magic the Gathering after school group in a couple
Hmm.
other schools. Like
Yeah,
these
boy.
kids actually have a place to be. Not all schools offer that. So if they did esports, then I think it would be a great thing. But as TJ said, there's got to be a limit. They can't be having mature rated games because a lot of these kids are probably 13 to 16. Granted, when they go home, they want to play if their parents allow it. Sure, fine. But at the school, keep it simple. Rocket League, maybe Fortnite because it's more cartoony, less violent, no blood or nothing. It's just a comic type
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I think it'd be great for more schools to get involved in the scholastic esports.
Okay. So let me, Frank, we'll start with you this time since we normally have you last. Um, as far as watching esports, are you into esports at all? Because I think one thing that people need to learn that aren't really familiar, is that I've always said all esports fans are gamers, but not all gamers are esports fans. I mean, that's there is a big difference, with that in terms of not everybody enjoys sitting there watching people play, but they want to play. So are you? I mean, obviously you're a gamer. Are you an esports fan? Will you watch? What's a certain game that you'll
Um,
sit down and watch?
I'm slowly getting more into it. I mean,
Okay.
back when it first came out, it was mostly just Fortnite or Call of Duty or stuff I
Hmm.
really didn't care about. But now that they're bringing more games into it, like Rocket League, which I do play a lot. I'm not good, but I'm trying to get better. I do watch some Rocket League esports.
Okay.
When like go on the Rocket League main menu, it'll tell you a live esports tournament happening right now, and I'll sit and I'll watch that instead of actually play
Nice.
for a little bit. I couldn't tell you a single team,
Sure.
but I do dabble into it here and there, and I am going to get more focused into it because maybe someday I would actually, if I can get better, try it myself.
Sure.
Because it'd be awesome for me. It'd be great for my kids to see them see something like that and have them more interested. And it's becoming a bigger thing where everybody thought that it was gonna die or when growing up. You probably heard it too. You're never gonna accomplish anything with video games. They're
Yeah.
not gonna amount to nothing. I heard it. I'm sure Brad's heard it. TJ maybe. You might be a little young, too young for to hear those words, but no offense.
Definitely.
But I mean, it's becoming a bigger mainstream thing where, like you said, Fortnite's giving out millions of dollar prizes first place,
Mhm.
hundreds of $1,000 prizes to second. They are
Yeah.
making money. They are getting big, and it is becoming more. It's like the Super Bowl for the nerd realm. Really.
Yeah.
Like the bigger ones, it really is. Like you can go on, you see all the viewers, hundreds of thousands of viewers. Same thing with the Super Bowl, hundreds of thousands, millions of viewers.
Yeah,
Like
I think, and one thing I had mentioned before the show we were gonna talk about, but there's if you're into, I think I want to say, is it League of Legends that does the internet? No, shoot,
oh
now I
no,
forget the game. The
I think it was League of
international,
Legends.
was it League of Legends?
I'm pretty sure.
They have the international every year. Somebody in the chat can maybe correct me on that. I don't
I
remember.
think you're right because I got a buddy Nick who's in that every year.
Yeah, and they have every year they use part of the profits from the game to fund the prize pool for this tournament. And I believe 2 years ago the prize pool was up to $40.1 million, and they only have like a select few teams. It's not like they have qualifiers all over the world, and then they have one. I think it's like a 5 or 10 day.
Oh, you're talking about Dota 2?
Yeah, Dota 2. Thank you. I knew League of Legends wasn't right. So yeah, Dota 2, and I know they yeah, every year it seems to go up. I think last year they were actually down some, and I don't know why
Yeah, the
that
last
was, but
tournament they did was in 2019, and because they've canceled since 2020 because the tournament's been in China, I believe.
oh yeah, 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 yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
So
the winning team took home like 15 point some mil for the winning team.
yeah, and I think it's a five player team. So you
Yeah,
split that up 5 ways or whatever, however they do it. But yeah, I mean, basically you had some rich kids, because I think most of the competitors and at that level are like 18 or 20 years old. So okay, so Brad, what obviously I'll probably kind of know the answer, but how much? Oh, okay, let's just ask this: outside of the help that you've done with the school, like if you're at home with your kids, or just hanging out by yourself, are you watching esports, or not really?
um, I'd say a little bit yes and no. I think it's more like it's less, I guess you say, an organized esport. Like I'll sit down with my son and he'll watch Minecraft on YouTube, and you'll
Okay,
watch people, whether it be in creative modes or like doing like building competitions and things like that. So I watch in those aspects. I watch a little bit of League of Legends here and there.
okay,
Um, I just because it intrigues me. I think it seems like a really fun team game. But to be honest, like I'm more of like I either want to be playing it or producing it,
sure,
and so I'd say like the watching, I prefer to like watch in person with my esports players while I'm at school in our esports lab.
okay,
I think that environment, actually being there in person, is much more enjoyable than just seeing it on my screen.
sure. TJ, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, it like I said, it kind of goes off of like my past experience being in esports and
Sure.
traveling for some of the events. I still watch to this day. The only reason why is a lot of the racers through Forza I still tune for. So I make their tunes for their cars. I send it to Forza and they use those for these big races. I think the last race that we had, oh yeah, I think it was like Thanksgiving, and the winner walked away with like $100,000, and it was
Okay,
a span of like 5 weeks. And they would go through like a drifting competition, so you'd have to have like a certain class, car for that. They did drag racing, time attack, and then like toge racing. So when I get like the emails from like Microsoft or Forza saying, "Hey, we've got we got to race a qualifier this day," they'll bring some of us guys who have performed in the pro leagues to come race with those kids who are like just getting into it, wanting a taste of what it's like to race with some of these guys.
sure,
And we'll purposely lose just to give those kids the feeling of, all right, these guys are legit, like these guys know the racing lines and everything like that. So I right before I put my daughter down today, we were actually watching a qualifier for the race this year. They're doing since Ken Block passed away, they're doing a Ken Block memorial race, and you got to
Okay.
only use his cars that he's ever driven.
Okay, cool. Wow. All right. So what we'll go to the next topic in just a second, but for those of you, and I'm going to see if I can share it. For some reason, it wasn't letting me share it on on the regular Dads with Bacon
I can
site.
get it on there.
Yeah. What I'm gonna. So do you see it, Brad? The link.
I see it on the Twitch and the Facebook post.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I mentioned a few hours ago on in our groups that I wanted to try something a little bit different tonight and open up the opportunity for anybody watching to chime in or kind of do like a call in type show. So if people would like to call up, what we're going to talk about, for the last part of the show, I have two different questions for the three of you. One is there a game that you can remember in the past? It can be the distant, when you were younger. It can be like current game that you were really looking forward to, really excited about, and then you got to play it and you were like, man, this was not, like a movie. I mean, I think we've all had movies where we've been really excited about it, and then all of a sudden we watch it and we're like, okay, that was really underwhelming. Is there, a game that you can think of that disappointed you? I guess is the best way to put it. Then the second question I'm want to ask you, but we'll do that. Obviously, we'll let you answer the first one. Is what game can you think of? And it can be a game that's had sequels already, so it doesn't have to be a game where just one version has come out. But what game are you looking at or franchise that you want to see another version of? So, TJ, we'll start with you. Has there been a game? And for those of you watching, if you want to chime in, just click on the link, and that link will bring you right to our studio, and then we'll let you in to give your 2 cents on this. So yeah, TJ, go ahead. Is there a game that just kind of disappointed you?
Uh, I'm gonna say yeah. I'm gonna say these new Call of Duties that have come out. They're kind of just copy and paste of what they were back in the day before the modders and everybody could get into it. Um, the hype was so real for Modern Warfare 2. I mean, I remember when Black Ops 2 was coming out and people were camping out, just trying to get the games. And, we would call out for school days just to go get these games. Nowadays, it's like you get the midnight drops or, you can pre-order it. You can do the alpha and the beta and everything like that. It was so hyped up for the new Modern Warfare 2 that I literally feel it was just a copy and paste of what the original was. Maybe a couple things here and there because they added, Warzone. They made it Warzone 2.0.
Yeah.
It felt like the same thing over and over and over and again. And, I think it goes for a lot of games. Madden is massively one that they look at it and they're literally going, all right, Madden is, from, I think it was 16 or 17 was the best Madden out there.
Yeah.
Just it took off. Now you look at 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, now 23. Not a lot of people are buying it, and it's it's games where kids will see it. From I've got best friends who have little brothers.
Yeah.
They see us playing Call of Duty, Need for Speed being another one. Then the Unbound, literally, it had 85,000 people buying it day one. To this day, and I looked it up not too long ago, there's literally 5,000 people playing that game day to day.
Yeah.
So I think it's just, I mean, a lot of racing games, yes, but I think the major one right now, and a lot of people who are into esports is going to say Madden because it tanks so hard and they can't rebound from it.
Yeah, and I think I'm a Madden guy. I buy that game every single year. I've hardly gotten a chance to play to play this one this year, but I think I played one or two games. But I think I may have mentioned it too in the first episode. I feel like there are some years where they just kind of it's a roster update. You're paying 80 or $100 and you're getting a roster update, and that's about it. So
And there's ultimate teams that you have to do. Like you're paying, like you're doing microtransactions. So you're paying, now these new gens, like the new consoles, they're $80 a game.
yeah,
So you're paying $80 a game plus, $50 here to, buy a new pack that's got a 99 overall Barry Sanders that you can only use 4 times. So,
yeah,
at the end of the year, you're looking at your bank statement, and a lot of these parents are like, okay, there's $6,000 coming out, at the end of the year for Madden. Like, what the hell? Like, why is it so bad? I feel like if it stuck to how it was pre, like, these big name players where you could create your own player or create your own
hmm
teams, do stuff
yeah,
like that, dude, Madden would take off in a split second. And I think you would have so many people buy.
yeah, yeah. I would agree. Brad, how about you? Any game that ever disappointed you?
Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. Star Wars Battlefront, the new Star Wars Battlefronts. Dude, the ones on PS2 were amazing, and I mean the ones on PS4 or Xbox or whatever, Xbox One, whatever,
Yeah,
straight dog water, man. The online play was terrible. It was not good. And I think a lot of people that have played Modern Warfare, Battlefront in the past would definitely agree. I also think like I played a lot of Metal Gear Solid on PS2. I thought the PS2 versions of a lot of games were some of the better versions of a lot of series, and then really beyond that, Metal Gear Solid is just kind of just slowly but surely gone downwards. And lastly, kind of going back way further than both of those games is Duke Nukem. I remember playing Duke
yeah,
Nukem on my PC back in the day, Duke Nukem
yep,
3D, and that was an amazing game. And
hmm
then eventually, once they tried hitting it on the consoles to make it this new kind of like better than Doom kind of thing, and it just didn't taper out. So yeah, but I think that Battlefront probably is the one that's got me the most butthurt, just because that game was so good on PS2.
yeah. All right, Frank, how about you? Certain
Uh,
game that really disappointed you, or are there numerous ones?
I mean, there's definitely a lot, but the one that jumped off the top of my head was probably, I know this is going way back, Vector Man 2 for the Sega Genesis.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was a big fan of Vector Man, and my uncle got it for me when I was probably about 6, 7 years old. And even to this day, it's a game I'll go back to every couple times a year, because I still own it. And then it wasn't until my late teens when I finally got Vector Man 2. And all those years, I heard about the hype of it. I knew about it. I knew it was supposed to have better power ups and all this other stuff. And then when I finally got the chance to play it, my first thought was, this is freaking awesome. Like, these power ups are awesome. The levels are great. Till I got to the middle section, and then they just started repeating the same 2 levels over and over for about 6 times before they went to new levels to finish the game. And even the end boss was not as climatic as the first one, as Warhammer was in the first one. It
Sure.
was just this giant spider that's
Yeah.
been done too many times, especially in games like that.
Vector Man 1's a great game, man. And I think you're right. Vector Man 2 is just like it's a game.
It is. It was something I was disappointed to, 'cause I still am a huge fan of the first one, and to be that disappointed with a sequel, and I beat it a few times just to try and acquire the taste to it, but the middle section of repeating the same levels over and over, and the final levels are just horrible. And that anticlimactic boss was, there was no rhyme or reason. At least the first one had a story. Basically, it's similar. I swear to God, Wally from Pixar had to take huge inspiration from Vector Man because it's the exact same storyline. It's the exact same plot. And I thought that as soon as I saw Wally when I was 15, I was like, this is Vector Man. That's all I could think of.
How about you, Aaron?
So
What was yours?
Well, actually, I saw somebody in the, and again, I can't see. So who said ET?
It was let's see who it was. It was J Man.
Okay, yeah, that's probably the one I remember the most. I mean, again, like I said to TJ, I feel like Madden does. There are years that it disappoints when it just feels like you're expecting some big kind of change, and what sucked was, I guess the one of the biggest disappointments to me was when the NFL signed their exclusivity deal with EA Sports,
Yep.
because I thought that completely ruined the competitiveness of what EA had versus what is it, visual concept. Well, the 2K Sports, when
Yeah.
they had
Yeah, or even 989 Sports.
yeah. I mean, so to me, competition's always better. And yeah, I just that was probably one of the biggest disappointments when I saw that. And then I remember reading an article. I mean, this is probably like a decade ago, that the contract was going to be coming up, and I thought, oh, sweet, maybe the NFL, come to their senses, and no, they, like a week after I read that article, read another article saying they had re-upped with EA Sports, and I thought, oh crap, there it goes for another 10 years, and like I said, I don't want to rip on like the people that make the game, because I mean they're all hard workers, and I get that when you're talking about sports games, you have a limited amount of time. It's not like you can push it back a year like some of these other games. So I get that, but like for me, I almost wish they would. If you're only going to do basically a roster update, just what, that year charge half and say, look, we're going to charge you $30 if you want a new roster. And then so almost do like a 2-year cycle where you can, every 2 years you come up with a new game. And I know they're never going to do that because the NFL is all about money, and so is EA Sports. I get it, but to me that would be like almost the best plan, is just to do
Yeah,
something like
until the
that.
customer does anything about not going to them and
Yeah.
forking over their anywhere from $60 to $80 every year, that's that nothing will change.
Well,
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
that's what NASCAR did. So NASCAR came out with Ignition 2001, and for 2022, when they came out with the seventh gen car, like the newest NASCAR, all they did was they kept Ignition 21. They gave you an update. I think it was like $20. Gives you all the brand new cars, all the new paint schemes, the new tracks that they're running at, and people were loving it because instead of them taking, you know, 2 3 years to build a new game, all they did was just gave you a new DLC pack, gave you everything you needed for that racing season, and they're going to do the same thing with this new upcoming season. Now is they're giving you if a racer went to a different team, they're going to put them on a different team, and I think that pack is like $10.
Yeah. See, and that's, you're showing your fans that you're not, just trying to take their money and, screw them over. I mean, I think that's the way to go when it comes to some of these sports games too. So, okay, so let's get to the next question, which is sequels. So, Frank, I'll start with you. Are you hoping that Vector Man comes out with a 3-1 just to make up for
No.
the horrible number 2? No, okay,
No,
okay.
no. 'Cause they
So
already
what?
tried to do it in 3D and it was canceled. I
Oh,
seen a
okay.
short trailer for it. I think it was supposed to be on the PS2 and Xbox, and it was. And I saw I think it showed like 3 minutes, and it was worse than what Earthworm Jim 3D on the 64 was. Like it was bad.
Okay, so what game do you want to see a sequel to? And again, this could be a franchise that you love the franchise and want to see another one, or it can be one where they've only had one game and you want to see them come out with a second.
As far as sequels go, just none that I can think of off the top of my head. Um, yeah, I really don't know. I can't think of any off the top of my head. I usually always think about stuff like that, but I'm just gonna run a blank.
Okay, why don't we go to Brad, and then we can always, if
Yeah,
you
I'll
think of
think.
one here,
Hundred
maybe he'll.
percent
Yeah.
yes. 100% yes. For example, on Super Nintendo, Super Mario RPG, I think that 1000% deserves a sequel. That was such an amazing game, and a lot of people didn't know. Like that was one of the first. Well, I think the first Mario RPG, and yeah, I mean, yeah, I would. You see that meme, "Take my money." Take my money. I would also say Skyrim. It's been like 11 years since the original Skyrim was released. I'm chomping at the bit for the next GTA. Um, I'm also, in all honesty, like I've been kind of, I didn't want to buy it, but I did, and I kind of regret it right now. I bought Gran Turismo 7
Yeah.
for PS4,
Yep.
but I want a PS5 for it. I mean, I don't think my PS4 really does that game very good of justice, and um, so because I love I've bought literally every Gran Turismo game ever in existence. So it's something that, like, TJ and I definitely have in common. I'm not a gearhead. I'm not a guy that's into cars, but I love car racing games.
Yeah, I actually have Gran Turismo 7 for the PS5, and it's pretty damn impressive. And I've never been huge into that series, but I have another friend who really is, and he said, "Dude, you gotta buy this game." So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's I'm pretty impressed with the different graphics. Um, I was gonna say something to you too, Brad. Something that you brought up, and but okay, I'm drawing a blank now. So why don't we, TJ? Why don't we go to you? Sequels.
So I think the biggest one for me, and I'm going to keep it true to what I've been saying all night, the new Horizon, or not Horizon, Forza Motorsport that's coming out this year. I was actually lucky enough, a couple of my buddies and I were lucky enough to work with the devs with it.
Oh,
And
nice.
when we got the opportunity to do it, it was amazing because they would send you the list of cars that are coming out is probably the biggest list I've seen through any motorsport game. It'll be a good fight between that and Gran Turismo because I have played Turismo and it's a good game. It's definitely true to like the gearhead scene where if you want to build a true street car, throw an intercooler in there and just go race somebody for fun, you can do that. But when it comes to like motorsport, you gotta put money into the game and like really go for it.
Yeah.
So I would definitely say, when motorsport comes around, anybody who's got the Xbox Series X or S, it's going to be well worth the price. I mean, the tracks there are amazing. The car list is something where people have been asking for these cars through all of the Forzas, from Horizon to the Motorsports. They're bringing cars that people are asking for, and they're actually listening to the gamer itself. So yeah, I'd say Motorsport is one. And the other one I'm looking really forward to, and it was one that I didn't think I could get into. One of my best friends, who to this day, I'm actually hoping he'd text me here soon because he's playing it right now, is the new Assassin's Creed Mirage. I really got into that saga of Assassin's Creed, and it actually the Pirates Assassin's Creed puts my daughter to sleep when they start singing some of the sea shanties.
Well, yeah. Anything that helps put our kids to sleep. That's
Oh, it's the best. Like she'll be coming downstairs and talking about drinking a bottle of rum, and I looked at her and I was like, "Damn, I gotta stop playing that game now."
So okay, let me. You mentioned something just now, actually, TJ. That we'll end with this question because it is something that's come up quite a bit um, lately with games and in terms of controversy and that kind of thing. And I think you kind of mentioned it too before about all the in-game transactions. So Frank, I'll start with you. How do you feel about like DLCs and different in-game transactions, especially when, for because certain games do it that are free to play, and then you have some other ones that do it after they charge you like 60 or $100 for the game, and they keep, nickel and diming you. How do you are you completely against it? Are you okay with it sometimes?
I'm on the fence with that one. The free DLCs are great. Um, Most of the times the paid DLC is just a very small portion of what they could easily put into the game for
Yeah.
the release. Um, I don't. I do DLC. I will pay for DLC, although it's very rare. It's only if I really enjoy the game and I think the company is amazing and they did a great job, then I will throw them a few extra dollars because I know that's going to go to the next game, the next project or whatever, and it's going to help out. I'm not against with contributing to new content, new games, but when they start asking for hundreds of dollars like Fortnite does just for cosmetic bullcrap that
Mm-hmm.
you don't need. But when the game like Dark Souls, all three Dark Souls did great with their DLCs.
Yeah.
Bloodborne did great with its DLC, and I paid for all of it because they added so much more content, more weapons, more spells, everything that you could want for. Um, and I loved the games. And after they're done, I wanted more. So as soon as DLC started rolling out, I was like, yes, let's keep going because I love From Software and I love what they do. So I
Yeah.
feel they deserve that little bit of extra money.
Sure. Brad, how about you?
Um, yeah, I'm not too big of a fan just because, like, um, I think that basically a lot of companies just take advantage of people
Yeah.
and try, and like when you literally say the term nickel and dime, that's what they're doing. And I don't know if it's a survival tactic or if it's just a 1000% greedy profitability tactic. I
Yeah.
don't know. But at the same time, like, what I don't like about microtransactions is that in some games that there's the pay to win concept, and I am
Yeah.
not a fan. I'm 1000% against any game that has that. I don't play because I think it is unfair to not only myself who's unwilling to pay that, but other people who aren't financially even able to. They're like, hey, I'm interested. I want to play too, but
Mm-hmm.
I ain't got the extra $10, and that's real. That's real life for some people.
Sure. Sure.
So it's I don't know. It just leaves a sour taste in my mouth. But I do understand the business tactic. I just don't like it.
Sure. How about you, TJ?
I'm kind of with Frank. I'm on the fence with it. Like yes and no. Yes, because there are some DLCs where you see it. You're like, all right, I have to jump on it. I got to make sure this is legit. Like this is what I'm paying for. Um, and there are some games. For instance, GTA 5. It seems like they come out with a DLC every like 3 months just to keep that game going because they're still in the works with 6.
Yeah.
So a lot of them have been free. There are some smaller ones I've seen that you have to pay for, and when you try to jump online, you got to pay for it just to play online now. So in that aspect, I'm not a big fan of it. Um, I am a fan of like small things when it comes to like racing games. If somebody's got a new, let's say the new Subaru comes out, and that game's got licensing for Subaru. They put the DLC in; it's free. You go in, you play it, you race, your favorite car. Cool, that's awesome. Um, but it kind of goes back on what I said with Madden. There's kids. I coach football, like youth football. There's parents that bribe these kids. I'll get you Madden bucks if you do this for practice, or if you get 3 sacks and an interception, I'll give you $100 to go spend on that. And I'm like, you just paid $80 for a damn game. You're putting $100 more into it. Like, adopt me if you got that money, because damn, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
Oh, can I add something real quick?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Because he just made me think of a valid point. When it comes to DLCs, the one thing that really does irk me is after all the DLCs have been rolled out, usually most games get 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
Then, so if you buy the game for $60, you spend $15-$20 for each pack, so there's another 40, $80. So now you're up to almost $150. Then the next year rolls around, and then they release the game again with all the DLC for $60.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is the one thing I hate, and I will not be a part of. But
And,
for
and they'll
most
call
games,
it they'll call it like the
the
platinum edition
special
or something like that.
edition,
Yeah, the special
there's
edition.
the Game
and,
of the
yeah.
Year edition.
Yeah.
Which okay, Game of the Year maybe, but They're special editions. They're not special. It's the same game with all the DLC for
You
$60.
ain't special.
No, they're not. And to go back to the game for a sequel,
Yeah, yeah.
I thought of one. Diddy Kong Racing.
Dude, I had that on my list. Yes, Diddy Kong Racing.
I don't know why Rare or Nintendo didn't go on farther with that.
Yes.
Diddy Kong Racing is far superior to Mario Kart 64
I
in
agree,
every
100%.
aspect. It's got an open world adventure. It's got the racing. It's got quests. It's got a story where Mario Kart is just the same 20 maps over and over.
Yeah.
And then after
100%.
you beat the game and you get everything, you get to go to space. Like,
Yes.
come on. And then they stopped. Never seen anything more like that again. Even Mario Kart didn't take from that and just kept doing Mario Kart's thing, where I think they should have took some inspiration. But no, they just add more racers, more Nintendo characters, and I guess they kind of went the extra vehicles because now you can get gliders and motorcycles and go
Yeah.
karts and whatever else. But Diddy Kong Racing is something that deserves a sequel.
Yes. Nice pull, dude. That's yes.
Now, let me remind me though. Are they both? They're both Nintendo, like first
Oh,
party
Diddy
games, correct?
No,
They're-
Nintendo, I think, is just the producer, not the producer.
Diddy
of
Kong
it.
Racing is on
They-
N64.
Yeah, but it's made by Rare. Rare
Correct.
owns Diddy Kong, Donkey Kong. That's why now Xbox has access to all the Rare titles from the 64.
okay, so it's not an exclusive.
Rare is the
necessarily.
developer and the rights owner, where Nintendo is just the publisher.
publisher,
Same thing
okay.
with they publish the Pokemon games, where Game Freak owns the Pokemon games,
Gotcha,
but Nintendo plays them because yeah, Game Freak can go and be like, buy Nintendo, we're going to PlayStation or something. But yeah, Rare owns the Donkey Kong franchise, and since they sided with Xbox and Nintendo, now both have it. And
Okay, you
PlayStation.
brought that something up real quick. I want to go around the circle with one thing real quick.
Sure.
PlayStation or Xbox?
PlayStation.
PlayStation.
PlayStation for me.
Xbox.
What about Xbox?
Ah.
you know, I always enjoy those. Sometimes I'll post that kind of stuff on Facebook just to get under people's skin because some people are really like
Finicky.
yeah. Like the reason I don't have I have a PS5, but back with the old when PS4 and Xbox One were out, I had an Xbox One. I mean, to me, it's more like, again, if I'm into like sports games, I can get them all on both systems, so it really doesn't matter. It was more or less a PS5 was available, and the Xbox One, is it Series X? Is that the newest one? I think Series
Yeah.
X.
It's Series X, S, and X.
Yeah. So the newest Xbox wasn't available. The PS5 was. I bought the PS5. I mean, that's why I have that one. But
Well, it's funny you say that because I looked at I got really big in, like, when COVID hit, I got really big into like stocks. So everybody buys stocks on something.
sure.
And Sony's stock market just skyrocketed because you could easily get your hands on a PS5, but Microsoft, you could not get an Xbox for months. I mean,
Yeah.
you would go in and be like, oh, special edition Halo Xbox. Limited to store was probably about 100 of them in a store. So you got guys fighting outside for an Xbox. And I'm like, you know what? I'm
Yeah.
going to wait for an Xbox. And I literally drove across the bridge that everybody hates in this state, picked up an Xbox, drove back home. And as I'm literally leaving back, this guy goes, yeah, I can't find an Xbox. I texted him where I found one. And they had a truckload of Xboxes just sitting back there.
That's crazy. Yeah, I know. I had some friends when both of those systems came out who, they would get emails from different stores saying, like, usually it was a Walmart, like, hey, jump into the queue to get, to get your hands on, I think it was maybe like 100 systems that they were giving away online, or not giving away, but selling online. And these guys sat for like a couple hours in the queue waiting to get them via mail and all that stuff. So yeah, I hopefully pretty soon, because one of the games I'm looking forward to but it got pushed back to 2024 as NCAA football, the newest version.
Yes.
And
God.
I had somebody that said, I'm looking forward to that game too, but it sucks that we're going to have, because it's only going to be on like the PS5 and the new Xbox. It's not going to be on PS4 and
They
Xbox
just
One. And what was that?
They just changed that. So now it'll be for PS5, Xbox Series S and X, PS4, and Xbox One S.
Okay. All right. Well, they must have had a lot of, because I told the guy, I'm like, you know what? The nice thing then about it going back to 2024 is that hopefully by that time, the systems, the new gen systems will be a little bit cheaper and they'll be readily available.
Oh yeah.
Whereas as now and whatever, but they must have had a lot of backlash maybe after that, because I know there were a lot of people that were upset, but again, it's like, okay, it's almost 2 years away. I think things will be a little bit better at that point.
Yeah, and I mean a lot of reasons why too is like, with kids my age, I mean, being 29, I played NCAA from, God, I think it was like NCAA 2002.
Yeah.
Like Jerry Harrison on the front cover to, 14 when it was RG3. And, you would wait for that game every year. You would stack, a non-conference power, non-power 5 team and just like run the tables.
Yeah.
And nowadays, like they have the college football revamped for like the PC guys.
Sure.
Play with the college teams today. And, I picked up a PC just to do that and see how it was. It's not the same. Like, you don't get the fight songs from these teams. You don't get, good commentator because, they'll say Patrick Mahomes threw the football. Dude, I'm playing with Alabama and Bryce Young. How's that Patrick Mahomes? Like, it's like that. But yeah, when this new NCAA comes out, I guarantee you it'll outshine Madden and any other NFL games.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, well, I think we're out of time for today. But Frank, did you want to add anything? I'll let you each add something if you want before we leave.
Nothing that I can think of.
Okay, Brad, how about you?
No, I did think of one other sequel. It was a PlayStation exclusive, Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh yeah,
That's a fabulous game. But
nice.
yeah, that definitely deserves a sequel.
All right, TJ.
You know what? From hanging out with you guys this whole time, being the first time on here, it was awesome actually meeting every single one of you because I've seen all these episodes. I think after tonight, guys, I'm going to go buy a PlayStation.
Good.
Tell you what, man, you won't regret it.
Hey, I'll keep the PlayStation downstairs. I'll keep the Xbox in my room. But no, this was awesome. I love that we can all talk about something we can all relate to, and it's awesome. Like you rarely ever get that.
Absolutely,
right on, dude.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure having you on tonight, man. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great having you on. Frank, Brad, great as always. You guys have a great week and enjoy playing whatever games you guys are playing. All of you that are watching, enjoy playing games, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, man. See ya.
See you guys.
See ya.